And I was like, man, I just want to be like artistic and like push boundaries and like be progressive and like make experimental type music. He's like, if you want to make music that ain't gonna make no money, then you might as well just make that shit for yourself and listen to that shit in your basement, because that's where you're gonna be at.
Take advice, but make sure that person understands the road that you're traveling and where you want to be.
What's going down, music entrepreneurs? Appreciate you tuning back in with us for another episode of the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast, the podcast where we live it, so we give it. And of course, what we're talking about is the music business. Everyone's here. I don't know where everyone is other than Dame. I can identify that he's in his office. Well, I guess I know where I am most of the time. How's everyone feeling this morning?
Man, it's another tired week for me. I'm sure I'll get into some of the things and the wins for the week because it's part of the reason why I'm this tired. But Erinn, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, tired as well, but about to enter into hopefully a somewhat peaceful, chill phase for the next 2 weeks. So we'll see.
Just know that this episode, once again, is brought to you by Two Lost. If you want 3 months free music distribution, use the code MEC, go to twolost.com, and download the app. Payne, share a win from the past week.
Erinn, go first.
I mean, I think I always have wins to share. 2 kind of like weighty projects that matter to me. One is with our friends at 24/7. So hopefully y'all will be hearing some announcements soon about some in-person stuff that I'm doing with them. And then also with my agency, Build Your Own Dreams. We've been offered a really, really, really beautiful contract in Austin to do some art, develop some murals, and then like tell the stories behind it. So I'm waiting to see what that contract looks like, what the actual money offer is. But it's super cool because it's in alignment with what I said I wanted to do at the beginning of the year. I started calling myself an art dealer at the beginning of the year, and now I'm potentially about to receive my biggest contract ever as an agency owner around the installation and storytelling of the history of regions in Austin, put in place by murals. So I'm really excited about that. I'm very hopeful and expectant. So it's a good way to segue into Austin as I'm moving there full time next month.
Nice. Congrats. Payne, have you remembered your win yet?
Yes, my Patreon has exceeded 100 members, and this is only month 2, so that's great. Shout out to everyone who's joined the community, especially at the ground floor, because it's so new. And also, if you watch any of the videos, the solo videos I release, I always shout out all the members. So if you do want to collab on beats, if you want to get copies of all my kits that are dropping, and when one is dropping this month, hopefully, if Sample Lab can schedule it, if you want to get all those for free, if you want access to a huge sample vault, I think like 700 sounds that aren't available anymore, join the Patreon. Patreon.com/DJPayne1.
And what are you calling the community again?
Beat Campus. And that's in anticipation of the rollout of my beat selling course, which is the only course I have ever worked on in my life, despite internet lore, that I have made all of my wealth, my immense wealth, off of teaching others how to do what I could not do myself.
Nice. So all the producers.
Damn, I feel like this warrants the sound, the
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. Well, dope. Join Beat Campus. All the producers. There were a lot of producers at DreamCon. That's going to be my first win that I shared. DreamCon is an amazing event. People told me what it would be like before I got there, but I think you have to actually experience it to really get it. I mean, you have over 30,000, creators in one space, and it was at the convention center in Houston, and they had everything from gaming, streaming, wrestling, podcasting, music, production, bunch of people walking around in cosplay. Like, it was just a very positive environment. Big Ja had a ton of fans there. His panel went really well. Probably took us like 45 minutes to an hour just to get to walk to the space because everybody kept stopping him and asking for pictures. But his panel was packed. The music panel that I put together was in a really big room. So it probably held like 600 and something people, and it was probably like half full. So it was a lot of people for a music panel. And it really gave me a lot of ideas for how we can do it much bigger next year. I think the panel gave a lot of great information. Shout out to Dende, Herb the Phenom, Stocks for joining the panel. But it was just kind of like I felt like it was a basic panel in like an event where people are playing dodgeball and volleyball and like doing all this cool stuff. People were wrestling downstairs. Like, I want to try to match that energy with something music related next year. So I've already got some ideas for how we can potentially participate. But if you haven't been to DreamCon, I suggest you get down there next year. I think it's going to be, they already announced the dates. I think it's July 10th to the 12th. It's just a really fun time. Even if you're not, I think some people pigeonhole it to just like an anime and comic book world. It's way beyond that. And it's way more accepting of like if as long as you just bring positive energy, people are going to accept you. Right. So the last day I was there, I was just asking people. I was by myself, just walking the convention center, and asked somebody to take a picture for me. And they were so happy to take the picture because I feel like they want you to have a great time. Especially if you're new to the event. So I just hope that event stays so positive, and I think it will because it's creator led. I don't think it will go downhill as fast as like South by Southwest or something like that. Um, because it's creator led. So shout out to Mark Phillips and RDC World for putting a dope event together. The comedy showcase was dope. So Ja had a panel and he was on the comedy showcase, him and a few other guys from the crew. So Barry Brewer, Dean Will, Ken Edwin, all those guys are part of the whole crew of Stupid. They probably performed in front of the biggest crowd they've ever performed in front of. It was probably like 1,200 people in the audience. So it was dope. It was a super dope event. And I think the response was positive enough to get Two Lost to, come back bigger and better next year. So also I got another win is the Lesbian Homie first episode was dropped last night at 6 p.m. I think it already has over like 200,000 views. Um,
Congrats. That's amazing.
Yeah, we had for the first episode. It usually picks up over the course of the season, but for the first episode, we had over 9,000 people watching, and the direct sales have been very strong, stronger than past years. So for people that don't know, you can watch episodes weekly Tuesday at 6 p.m. We go live right after that with some of the cast members. Last night we went live with a couple of the cast members and the writers of the show and had a really dope conversation. Or you can purchase the entire season if you go to bigjaw.com. We normally have used Moment for this, moment.co. This is the first time using our own website with the single plugin. So far, it's been working amazing. A lot of sales. I just hope that continues. So I know that my win section was very long-winded, but that's ultimately why I'm still tired today. It's just up, just doing a lot of things. I'm still playing customer service. If people got issues with their purchase, I'm the one that's answering those emails. So a lot of stuff to do, cutting content, make sure we got shitload of reels and stuff to post this week. So yeah, but let's jump into the topics. Let's start with something else, Payne, because I just rambled for like 7 minutes.
Okay, well then here's like a little palate cleanser then. I just want to tell a quick story because it reminded me of what we talked about last episode. So this happened a few weeks ago. I'm in the car. I'm driving my sister's car because she's a crazy driver. And there's a dude in the back that I know, just, kind of from being around her. And as we're driving, she looks at the dude in the back and is like, "You make music, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Let me hear something." So he airdrops her something. And I'm in the car driving and I'm listening. And I'm like, damn, this guy's pretty good. It's like bedroom pop kind of stuff. And then we're talking about the reason we all know each other is from like a specific activist circle. And they're talking about this other woman that's in that general circle too. And they're like, she makes music too. Let's pull up her Bandcamp. So we're listening. And I'm like, wow, she can really play guitar. And my sister herself is self-published as a spoken word artist and a poet. And I know I've booked her, not like nepotistically, but I'm the one that writes checks for my nonprofit's annual summer music festival. So I've written her checks for her poetry sets. So everybody involved in this conversation, even the ones that aren't there, are creatives, right? And they're all good. And it just reminded me how many creative people there are, number one, and how the least you can be if you're making music or art in general, the like the least you can do is make decent art, because you throw a rock and you hit an artist, and because of technology, because of the accessibility of YouTube tutorials, because of the internet creating artist communities, everyone's good. And so when we did the episode last week where we looked at the Saba video, where he was talking about artists' false nostalgia about the old record industry, about the old music business, where 20 years ago all you needed was talent. Like, the least of anybody's requirements to enter into music professionally is talent. For the most part, people are talented, and there's still work to do. So I don't know if that's motivation, a reality check, or whatever, but it was just an interesting situation that I'm in, the dynamic and the relationship that the population in general just has with art, and like, out of all those people, I'm the only one that's making music professionally full time, which isn't to say I'm the most talented of the four at all. You know what I mean? It takes other skills to get to that point.
Yeah, I don't remember. So I thought Saba was basically saying, I mean, it's part of that maybe, but he was basically saying, like, even back then, like, you had to do more than just put out the music, right? It was like,
Yeah, no, he was. I'm just saying the narrative that he's countering is that all you used to need was talent, which is false. But
oh, got you.
artists nowadays say you used to only need talent, and what they're saying is that they're talented, therefore they should be successful. And then my challenge was, a lot of artists aren't talented, they just have an idea of talent that benefits themselves, and it's always just an excuse. It's like simultaneously an excuse and a justification for them not trying very hard.
Is that? I mean, it sounds like your type is like a statement. Like, what's the?
No, that's not my topic. That's a segue into. I'm trying to segue back into Danny Brown for you.
Oh, I was letting you do your first because I went so long with the wins. That's why I suggested you start.
So we don't care, Dan. We like hearing you talk.
Yeah, Dave, did you see the comments from the last video? People love, especially when you, like, there's a merch line that's coming from the comments from you, from one of your statements. You're not going to make it, which would be actually a really funny shirt. That's what somebody was like, that would go crazy on a shirt. And I was like, factual. And then people were like, I think we need somebody to start super clipping us, because people were calling out moments where you're like, talking about stuff and how funny it is. And I'm like, yeah, Dave needs his own show. So there was a lot of love on the last episode.
But I don't be telling people they're not gonna make it. What was that? What did I say?
You literally said you're not going to make it, because you're talking about,
Or like, if they do something or not do something.
yeah, they're, you were basically saying, if we're still talking about this on this podcast and you need to be convinced, you're not going to make it. But the overwhelming majority of the comments loved that like section and thought it was funny. And then one person said it should be merged, and then somebody else quoted it. It just was like a funny moment. And then somebody else said, you need your own Netflix series. I was like, factual.
I mean, I try not to be negative, but like, at this point, we've been in the game, well, at least I've been in the game since 2008. I've seen a lot of people come and go. More people go than come. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's easy to see like who has the qualities that give themselves a real chance. And I don't even like to waste my time with people that, you know, exert some of the qualities that I know are going to end in failure, at least in the music industry. Um, so yeah, especially like I mean, and you guys know I don't work with music artists anymore like that. Although I did just tell the homie Bari that I would help him put out a project because he's such an amazing talent. So Bari scores all the music for the Lesbian Homie. I think I've mentioned his name before because he also does not just our stuff. He does like stuff that's on TV and stuff that's streaming on big streaming platforms. Um, and because he's tied down with that stuff, it prevents him from focusing on his artistry, his actual music. So I wanted to help him get some stuff out. But anyway, like I think my biggest thing is like I don't want to work with people that still have to like learn from their own mistakes. Like part of the reason you work with someone like us is like, we've been down so many different paths, and I can tell you if you go down that street, there's gonna be somebody that's gonna punch you in the mouth. And then there's just a lot of creatives that are like, well, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, go down the street. And then they come back with a black eye. And like, we just wasted all that time. You walking down the street, you getting punched in the face. And I told you, don't go down that street. So if you still have to make your own mistake, not for everything, like if you still have to make your own mistakes, I'm not even talking to you because you wasted my time and there's no point. It's obviously you don't value my experience either. So you probably just want me to tell you what you want to hear. And if you don't hear that, you're going to keep walking down streets I told you not to go by. So that was another rant. And I don't even know why I went there, but hopefully people didn't just hear that you're not going to make it.
No, I think they actually heard what you were saying because they rocked with it. And then I caught a ton of flack for saying your music isn't a gift to me. And somebody was like trying to go back and forth with me last night. And they were like, be careful, Erinn, music is a gift. I'm like, yes, to the willing receiver and to the hearer who wants it. But if you bring me something that I didn't ask for, I don't consider it a gift. And then somebody was like, well, if I bring you a peach pie and you don't eat peaches, I would just take it, but it's still a gift because of my intention. I said, okay, if somebody brings you a bag of shit, are you going to consider it a gift? Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like you can't.
That's a wild response, though.
But I'm just saying you're naming nice things to try to equate it. And I'm saying that to me, it's like if I'm deathly allergic to peaches and you haven't done the research to do, it's not like just don't assume that what you're giving me is a gift. That's all I was saying. But in light
Right.
of
It's
that,
like giving a 3-year-old Windex for their birthday.
yeah, it's like, what? Like, yes, it's useful, but also they may try to inhale it. You never know. It's poison. So yeah, I gave them another example. I said, if you bring me gummy bears and you think you're giving me a gift, I'm going to toss them because I don't eat food dye. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you
But
can't
it's still
just
a
assume
gift,
that you're
though.
giving somebody a gift. What'd you say?
But it is a gift, though, right?
So if somebody gives you a pile of shit, do you consider it a gift?
That's a terrible example because
That's what most music is to me, a pile of shit.
oh shit.
Dave, you're the one. I'm the one who's always talking about how much I'm finding good music. You're the one who always says that you don't find good music often. I thought you would at least agree with me. If you get on
No,
stage and
hold up.
waste my time,
Dame is going solo. Dame is the Diana Ross to our Supremes. Ever since they told him in the comments he should have his own Netflix special. He's our Lauryn Hill.
No, but a pile
it's
of
an
shit. That's
extreme example. But if you're assuming that your music is this good and amazing thing and I don't enjoy it, it's not a gift.
right. But a pile of shit is universally recognized as a ridiculous and disrespectful thing to hand someone. The only way I can
So
Fertilizer.
is so is 600,000 songs on Spotify every day.
but so the intention, so if somebody has a bag of shit, they know the intention is to be super disrespectful and nasty.
No, not if you're a farmer. Do you know that certain type of cow, no, listen, certain type of cow poop sells for really high. Certain type of animal poop, like my brother's a gardener. No, hear me. To my
I
brother, a
I
pile of shit is actually a gift, but that's a very specific person. right? So my point is, when you find your audience, whatever you're giving is a gift. But until you give it to the intended and proper audience, it's a pile of shit.
No, to me is it's still a gift if the intention is good. So if it is a pile of shit and that person comes from a culture where that's where they give people they really respect and love, then it is still a gift. Like, to me, that's whether you like it or not. I get gifts all the time at Christmas that I don't use or wear. It's still a gift to me. I don't. It's to me.
But that gift was purchased for you. If someone's just handing you a USB drive that they've handed to a million people before you, or they just give you a
Or an
Spotify.
iPhone, Dame.
So hey, it's that to me. That's more. What Payne just said is similar to like somebody getting a gift at a white elephant situation and then regifting it. It's still a gift to me. It's just it's the intention. If it's now if you if the intention is I really think you would enjoy this, then that's a gift. If the intention is I'm just trying to get my music heard to as many people as possible, then that's not a gift.
Okay, we can agree on that.
So yeah, to me,
As
it's
That was
somebody
the whole thing
whose
for me.
personality type is bent towards thoughtfulness, if you just arbitrarily give me something without understanding who I am or what you're trying to do, and I'm not even talking about Christmas gifts because you may think that you understand what I want for Christmas, but I'm saying just in general, like that's to the degree that I study the audiences that I'm catering to, is that I want to be intentional about what I give you. I want to know what you'd be interested in and then toss something in your direction and see if you're interested in it. If not, I pull it back, I refine, and then I come back to you. I think there's a level of reverence that's required when you're giving good gifts. So maybe it's a terrible gift. So maybe we can align and say it's a gift, but it's a terrible one. But my thought process is why waste your time on terrible gifts? And I'm not saying every gift is going to land and you're going to hit it out of the park, but I just don't agree that, like you said, it's not a gift if you're just arbitrarily throwing it out and trying to get as many people to listen to your music. But on that note, I do want to say this because I want people to know that I'm not only like a fan of music and a huge supporter of it. I want to highlight Ryan Schmidt asked yesterday or day before, who is a small artist that you think is going to be big? And I saw a lot of people tagging themselves. I saw a lot of artists in the comments. And as an executive, I was like, well, let me just shine some light on some people. I answered twice and I gave 5 different people ranging from 1.1 million monthly listeners to under 20,000. That way nobody's like, oh, well, you're all like Destin Conrad. He's got 1 million monthly listeners. But I also mentioned the New Respects. If you're into like Americana soul, I would check out the New Respects. And if you're into like some wavy, like, I don't know, psychedelic rock, but for 2025, check out Cruza, Cruza. But I want to start highlighting music that people are putting out. Like I found a chick the other day who had 117 monthly listeners. Like it was just a serendipitous happening. And I'm like, this music is incredible. So if you are an artist who follows our page, don't waste my time. Don't piss me off. I don't want you to give me a gift. If your music is not polished or ready, I don't want to hear demos. I listen to demos quite frequently. But if you have some music up on Spotify and you think it's worth listening to, tag yourself below either on YouTube or on Instagram, and I'm going to listen. And the way that I'm going to listen is that hopefully you have your link in bio. If you don't, then I'm not going to listen. But I'm going to try to come back every week with 1 or 2 people that I've heard, like, because people think that I hate music now. And I'm like, all I do all day is listen to music. I don't watch TV. I just listen to books and podcasts and music. Like, I love music. I love new artists. I love unique things. Somebody got mad at me for not listening to openers. And I'm like, I don't like concerts. I toured for over a decade. I don't really go to concerts. I would prefer for you to throw an intimate experience that caters to a niche fan base. That's what I want to go to. You can't blame me for not liking concerts. I did it for decades, but thank you.
We got to bring back the playlist if you're going to talk about new artists every week.
I still make one every month. I just don't drop it, but I make a new playlist every month and it's just a full range of sounds and songs. So I'm super down to start dropping it.
Yeah. Aaron's probably the most tapped into to music, even though I work at Two Lost. Like my primary responsibility is the Two Lost brand, so I'm not working directly with artists on a day-to-day basis. So Aaron's probably, or Payne, you're probably tapped. I mean, you're a DJ, so you got to be tapped in too. I mean, there's so
All
much.
I listen to is Pluto.
Yeah, I have a very limited, I have very little space for new music in my playlist, like that I come across every once in a while. I might add a song here and there. I know my guy Ali Joseph just dropped an EP and it's really dope. He's very consistent. I like listening to artists that are very consistent in the quality of the music that they put out. That's why I like Blast. That's why I like who else do I like? I think Kennedy Ryan is a new one that I like. I know she's been grinding for a minute. She actually has a show tonight. I'm going to Kennedy's show tonight. She has a show in LA.
You got to meet Swanky if you haven't met Swanky yet, her producer and DJ.
Is that the cat? He has a lot of hair. I may have seen him.
Yeah, he's got locks. He travels with her. He's like, I wouldn't say her manager, but essentially that. But he's her producer and DJ. He really taught her how to record music. So he's been with her forever. But me and him have worked together. He was one of the producers for my writing camp. And I remember years ago him being like, you got to check out my new artist. And now she's like blowing and it's super cool to see.
Yeah, I don't pop out to very many shows. So she's, and it just so happens that both her and Ali are coming this month, and those are both two younger artists that I listen to. So I don't even know who Pluto is. Payne, who is that? Is that a producer DJ or something?
I was surprised Aaron didn't chime in because Pluto's from Atlanta.
No, that's why I chuckled, and then I started thinking about future songs. Do you know what I'm saying? Immediately.
Well, who's Pluto? You still didn't answer that question. I don't know.
Pluto, I don't know her story. She only has like 2 songs out, but I like both of them. I didn't realize Zaytoven produced Win Whammy, so that makes sense. Because I'm like, how do you, this is like one of your first songs. How does it go so crazy?
She's blowing up on TikTok and just like all over the internet right now. But when he first said Pluto, I thought you were making a future reference. But either way, there is a DJ Pluto and a producer named Pluto, but there's a chick who's blowing up named Pluto, and she's from Atlanta.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll add like a song, like a trendy song that just kind of bangs. Right now, that one is I think it's called "Gang Gang" from Chef Boy. A lot of people doing the dance to it on TikTok. I start my workouts to that every time I work out.
That's similar, I feel like, to the Eat a Salad vibe. Not exactly, but like when you was really into Stunner Man, I feel like that Gang Gang song kind of carries some of the same energy.
To me, I like Stunner Man because of what he represents in terms of the healthy lifestyle. I can't really say that I can't listen to his music like that, but I love what he represents and just the idea of a song talking about eat a salad that aggressively is I rock with that. I rock with that messaging, and I think it's dope.
He finally re-released the clean version of it, so it's going up again. I just saw that recently. The clean version is trending.
Yeah, so I rock with what he represents. I don't know if sonically I rock with it, but yeah.
Well, this is a great segue into this Danny Brown conversation, I think.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play the clip. It'd probably be short. I only have a few things to say, and then you want to get your guys' feedback.
Turn your mic up a little, Dan, before I play this.
Turn it up?
Yeah.
You want me to turn the mic up to play the clip?
Yeah. I'm just saying, turn it up like while I'm playing the clip so it's not noticeable, but now it's noticeable.
It started feeding back a little bit when you started talking, Dame. Don't turn it up too much.
Yeah.
It might just be the placement.
No, it sounds good now. I can hear it. There's a difference.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Dan.
I remember 50 Cent told me that. Hanging with 50 Cent, he was like, man, because he was always talking about like, man, you got to make a hit song, this and that and that and this. And I was like, man, I just want to be like artistic and like push boundaries and like be progressive and like make experimental type music like that I never heard before and shit like that. Like, man, if you want to make music, he's like, if you want to make music that ain't gonna make no money, then you might as well just make that shit for yourself and listen to that shit in your basement, because that's where you're gonna be at.
I just wanted to. This is just a reminder. It's probably something that I've said multiple times. And I haven't really been tapped in with what Danny Brown has done. Probably since the Double XL cover. I forget which cover he was on with one of our guys. But it just goes to show. And I looked at his profile now. It's like he has like 1.7 million monthly listeners. You just can't take advice. There's so many different ways to be successful, and like everybody doesn't know like what your end goal is and what your path should be. I mean, obviously 50 Cent's path was like megastar, right? Hit the scene crazy, and had a lot of success, top of the charts type success, diamond record type success. Normally folks that are in that world know how to play that game. Danny Brown is a much different artist, definitely more built for an independent route. So, when you're listening, when you're getting advice from people, I think it's important to take guidance, take advice, but make sure that person understands the road that you're traveling and where you want to be. I think, and he said it in that clip, like, I don't think the answer to, how much success you want to have in the music industry, like, I don't think Danny Brown would answer with, I want to be the biggest artist in the world. I want to, have the biggest songs in the world. Because that is one route. It's a route that's very hard to obtain. But what Danny Brown is about is just having the freedom and the artistic freedom to just kind of do what he wants, express himself how he wants, and that comes with lower numbers, but still can provide a healthy career and good income. I mean, I don't know his pockets and what he got going on outside of music, but Danny Brown has always been an interesting character with a very strong fan base, and I'm sure they're still tapped into what he's doing now.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Danny Brown for like over a decade, because he has the ability to ebb and flow as an artist and not just as a rapper or music maker. I almost feel disrespectful relegating him to rap because he's made just some of like the coolest songs. And I was just looking at his Spotify because like I see his podcast a lot more now than I hear his music. But right when we started talking about it, I'm like, let me look at his Spotify. And he dropped a collab tape that I had forgot about, called Don't Scare the Hoes in 2023. And it was with JPEG Mafia. And I'm a huge fan of JPEG Mafia. They have like a very eclectic sound. I can never tell if it's actually a group or if it's just the one dude who's the face of the group, but he's always got like a huge crew of people behind him. But it's very like energetic, loud, thrashy music, but from a hip hop perspective. I feel like Playboy Cardi and a lot of like people that are hot right now are in Danny Brown's like wake and wave. And so it's cool to see him like continuing to evolve. I've seen him live before. He's one of the funniest artists on stage I've seen. So I don't know. I think I agree. He laughs in the clip, which makes me laugh. And I'm like, but did he take the advice? There's no conclusion there because he does have a couple of songs with hooks that sound like hits, but I just don't think Danny Brown has it in him to conform to like a hit type of formula. He really makes some of the most like interesting songs and sounds that I've ever heard. Like he used to tour, like he would be with like the Bonnaroo folks, but then he would pop up on like a hip hop festival, but then he would do like club shows. He'd be with like Chance the Rapper, and then he would be with like, I don't know, just like he was all over the place. And that's what I loved about him. He was represented in so many realms. And for me, as like a Black kid from Atlanta who wasn't just straight up hip hop, I felt so much representation from Danny Brown when I was coming up, like in my early 20s. And then now I think it's really cool to see him develop as a businessman. So I agree that the advice is not for everybody. I've gotten a lot of advice as a music exec, as a woman, as somebody who is coming up in this industry, that I'm like, I respect you a ton. So I'm not about to like argue with you. I'm going to take it with a grain of salt, but just like understanding that that's not my path. And the goal isn't like, I'm going to try to just run it up and get as much money as possible from this thing. It's like the money is already mine, but it's coming to me when I'm most authentic. So for me, that's why even leaving music, transitioning from a focal point in music wasn't a scary place for me, because I knew that I wasn't just relegated to being a music exec. So yeah, listen to the greats, listen to your predecessors, like don't disrespect them, take it with a grain of salt. And if you have the work ethic and the acumen to move yourself into the realms you want to, you can do anything. I think a lot of times people try to argue because they are lazy or they have a vision, but they don't have the energy or, again, the work ethic to put behind that vision. So then you just spend your time arguing and saying like, oh, 50 Cent was a hater, instead of being on your super successful, very eclectic podcast and laughing about 50 Cent telling you you're going to just be making music by yourself. I just wish he would have concluded it and been like, but that didn't happen to me. Because it seems like, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like he's stating it as if it's good advice. And I don't think it's bad advice, but it's like, that's not like everybody's aspiration or everybody's future.
Yeah.
Well, of course it didn't happen. If you're having a conversation with 50 Cent, you're not just making music in your basement. You know what I mean? Like you're already there. And I've seen people give terrible advice just because they have their ideas of what success has to look like based on their very specific experiences. And hip hop, especially, used to not be that experimental. There were some experimental artists that, Diggable Planets, I guess you could argue, was experimental. Cool Keith. But like as Danny Brown, or actually as 50 Cent is coming up on the mixtapes with Trackmasters and everybody, there are still, Anti-Pop Consortium is happening. Anticon is happening. There are all these experimental hip hop collectives that are creating these groundswells independently, of course, but it's still their careers. And, the majority of them are making music to this day. So having said that, I've seen, just to echo Erinn's advice, I've seen a rapper be told she needs to be more feminine, and now she's big and openly gay. There's a artist that, a composer that was told to rein it in, and he won a Grammy a couple years after he was given that advice by ignoring that advice. So take it with a grain of salt and just really understand what your path is, but don't be stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. There's some advice where someone's like, this is, you sing flat. That's how I sing. Okay, you might just be acting like a baby right now. But if someone says, hey, I really think you should change your image and be more, I don't know, like, you're a little too nerdy, act more gangster. Like that's dumb advice. Because if that's not who you are, that's not going to work. So know what the difference is.
Yeah, you gotta find, well, one, you gotta find people that you trust and respect, because you do have to be coachable at the same time. So you have to learn enough about the business and network with enough people to get the right people around you, and kind of hopefully develop the emotional intelligence to know when you're being like when you should accept the advice, or when you're being just maybe like a baby, when you're just being too stubborn, or and that's hard. It's hard to get to that space as an artist and develop that level of maturity. But I want to go back to what Erinn said, because I didn't know he put out a project called Don't Scare the Hoes. That's got to be a top 10 name of all time. That's hilarious. That definitely makes me want to listen to the music. But Danny Brown is dope, and everybody's not speaking the same language. 50 Cent may not be wrong, because to him, no money is what Danny Brown is probably making, but Danny Brown is probably making a very healthy life. He's probably living a very healthy lifestyle. But to 50 Cent, it's no money, because he got, I don't know what he's got, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars at this point. So that's what he calls no money. So you got to make sure you're speaking the same language, or you're going to get confused and potentially go down the wrong path. And it sounds like Danny attempted to make some, maybe step out of what he wanted to do, and attempted to make some bigger songs because maybe he heard that advice, a few different times. Maybe he wanted to make those songs, but I do know a lot of artists during that era, and even now, they're trying to make radio records, so they stepped away from what they normally do, and tried to make radio records and failed, and then kind of went back to what they want to do. I think Snow the Product is a great example of kind of, because when she was signed to a major record label, they told her to kind of stay away from the Latin stuff, and rapping in Spanish and things like that. And then she got off the label and like leaned heavy
Which
into
was
it.
stupid as shit. What a bunch of
And went
shitty advice.
crazy.
Yeah, now she's doing really well and like working with some of the biggest artists in the Latin market that are out. So yeah, a lot of, you just got to find the people that that you trust and that know like different ways to move. So yeah. Anyway, we what's the last topic?
I think we got to do Payne's topic, right?
Payne is distracted. He's talking to your cat, or is that a person?
No, there are a bunch of people at my house, and it's just
Oh,
really bad timing. Yeah, I'm ready for my topic, because this is something interesting that I heard about. And I just never really considered it, and Key Glock is confronting it and articulating it in a way I've never heard.
When I'm in the studio and I'm going through beats, I ask my homeboys, y'all like this beat? You like this beat? The beats that they don't like, they'll be the first ones I record on. And I make them, they'll love the song, because after I get off of it, the beat sounds nothing like they heard it before without words on it. Like, my words are extra instruments and shit in the beat. You get what I'm saying?
So do you see that like as a challenge to make them like it, or what
Yeah,
what is it?
I love it because they don't like it.
My first question to you: Do you really think he intentionally picks beats that other people dislike?
I could
I
see
don't
it.
know.
so when I hear that, just kind of listening as a manager, I'm like, yeah, I'm not working with that cat. Everything you suggest, he gonna, you say right, he say left, you say blue, he say red. Like, nah. I like the mindset in terms of like accepting the challenge and like, valuing your lyrics to enough to be able to transform a song so that people aren't even recognizing the beat that they thought they didn't like, but now they like the complete song. But if he does that, and hopefully he doesn't do that all the time, and hopefully he likes the beat and he's not just, accepting the beat because nobody in the room liked it. Hopefully he liked the beat. I would assume.
Well, I mean, I think there's also something that ties this conversation into the Danny Brown conversation, because if the people around him are the 50 Cents, right, and they're like, you got to go in this direction, and he's the Danny Brown, he's like, no, I want to go in a different direction, because he knows that they're on different stylistic, aesthetic trajectories, then it would make sense for him to ask the advice of someone who he doesn't think is on the same page as him, and then he does the opposite so that he can always stay, I guess, ahead of the curve. Because that's a lot of people. As a producer, I'm watching this and I have a lot of questions, and a lot of people will ask for, I've told this story before, they'll ask for experimental beats all the time. I want something different. And then when the project actually comes out, after you've sent them different beats and they've rejected every single one, then you hear the project and you're like, none of this is different. This sounds like everything else. So that's always a frustrating dynamic. But
Hey,
my dad doesn't care that I'm recording a podcast. We are in a weird era, and we do cover a lot of anti-producer content. We're recording artists and songwriters and labels and executives make claims that we're lesser contributors to the song creation process, and that we're replaceable, or we're untalented, we're undeserving as the same rights as vocal performers. But in the real world and behind closed doors like this, I think a lot of artists are and not great artists, because Key Glock isn't saying this, but a lot of artists are leaning on producers for hits. And you don't hear rappers or singers say to producers, hey, let me hear a mediocre beat. It's always, I need a hit. Send me an undeniable banger. Send me something no one's ever heard before. I had to block someone the other day because they were trying to buy beats from me. And I sent him a bunch of beats because he said he liked one of my beats. And he said, send some similar beats. And then he started talking about how bad the beats were. He's like, I don't want to pay for this. This is terrible. These beats are horrible. And I just blocked him because he was like, I need a real hit. I need this and that. And the references that he sent me that he recorded sounded terrible. So I'm like, you're not even qualified to speak on what's a hit or not. And then he starts questioning, so you were on Shiesty season. I was like, yes, I was. And you weren't. So I don't know what you want me to say right now. And it's like, so you want the beat to be a hit.
So using Erinn's analogy, you basically sent him.
I was just about to say.
I sent him bags of fertilizer, but the man did not have a garden. So he would have preferred the gummy bears, I guess, with the red dye in them. It's like people want the beat to be a hit, right? Or do you want the beat to be 50% of the hit? You see what I'm saying? And what Key Glock was saying was he sees his voice as part of the song in terms of it being an instrument. Just like, my beat is the instrumental. They have to complement each other. So when we cover these stories in which recording artists are cutting producers out of their equity, or like Diane Warren's cutting Tank out of equity because all he did was play the bass line and the drums and the keys, this speaks to that, because in a lot of instances, we as producers are expected to make the beat a hit before the rapper even writes a single word. And you're like, that's not how that works. And once the song is done, and let's say the song becomes successful, now we're suddenly told, well, you weren't that important. I could have done that to any beat. It's just the lyrics. Any beat can become a hit with the right lyrics. I feel like engineers and songwriters and videographers, and I guess graphic designers, are the most disrespected creators in the music industry, but producers are the most gaslit. Because one thing they can't do to a songwriter is say, oh, well, you didn't do anything, because they wrote the song. But they'll say that to a producer, and they'll even tell us, well, you're not part of the songwriting process, but we wrote the instrumental that without you couldn't have written the song. Are you kidding me? So it's just the gaslighting. That's what's, I think, really frustrating, because if people just came right out and said, like, look, I want a beat that carries me. Okay, cool. Well, then let's work on the hook together. You're lazy as shit and you're afraid that your creativity isn't enough. Cool. But it's always, send me a hit. Oh, this beat isn't a hit. This beat isn't a hit. And then they get the beat that's a hit, and suddenly I'm not a part of it, because all I did was make the beat.
I just, just kind of still kind of looking at it through the lens of management. It's like, what's the goal, right? Like, is your goal to prove people wrong, or is it to make the best music possible, right? Because he doesn't have a team to accomplish the latter. Right? It seems like he's just in there to prove everybody in the room wrong, and that's fine if that's what he wants to do. But there's no way I would ever be a part of a team. Like, once I saw that, I'd be like, oh yeah, there's no reason for me to be in the room, because as soon as I suggest something, he's gonna be like, nah, to do it this way. And now his goal is to just prove you wrong, as opposed to, making a great impact, making the best music possible. Yeah, not that he's asking me to manage him, but that would be a super duper red flag. I'm like, I'm out.
But you've managed artists who have just pretty much been motivated by trying to prove other people wrong before, and they were successful doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, so I learned from that experience. I mean, I talked about it, when I tell the Funk Volume story sometimes. Like, one of the biggest mistakes I made was, like, immediately they coined me as the business guy, and in the very beginning, that's what I was. I didn't know much about music, right? So I accepted that, and I kind of leaned into that. I was like, yeah, you guys are right. You guys do, but over time, you learn and you see what fans are responding to. I'm at every show. I'm in some of the studio sessions. I'm seeing how people, like, which lyrics are quoted online. So, hopefully people would value the experience I have. Even now, working with the comedians, like, I've seen Josh's content over the years develop. I see what people like about it. I see why it stands out more so than maybe another creator's content. So now that we're working with newer comedians that don't have the platform that Josh has, I would hope that they take some of the feedback that I have, because some of the stuff is just technical. It's just starting faster. It's just pacing. It's just the pace of your videos. Maybe the length of certain videos. The branding of certain videos. I would hope they take that feedback, because I've been working with John now for, I don't know, 7 years, but working with creators since 2008. Again, if you have to go down the street where I say you're going to get punched in the face, I can't rock with you.
Well, okay, so just to tie things up with Key Glock, it's not like he's in a room listening to the worst beats on the planet, picking the worst beats on the planet. He's in a room working with some pretty amazing producers, and he's just picking the beats that, I guess, go against the grain insofar as the culture of the room is concerned. He has 11 million monthly listeners on Spotify alone, so people like his music. He's not picking the trash. So I just think we're like getting into dangerous territory if people are looking at what he's saying and thinking, oh yeah, pick trash beats and just try really hard to make them hits. It's like Russ territory where they're like, oh, I just got to do what Russ does.
But again, I'm just looking at it purely from a management perspective. If that's working for him, that's amazing. I just would never want to be a part of that team, because I feel useless. I'm not adding any value here. So why? That's one of the reasons me and Futuristic stopped working together. Like, I felt like I'm not here to be a glorified assistant. No love lost. Like, we're still cool, but like, I'm not here. Like, you don't see, I'm not adding any value to what you're doing outside of you asking me, telling me what to do, essentially. And that's not a role I want to play. So it's amazing you have 11 million monthly listeners. Maybe he can have 20. Who knows? But I'm not on the team, so it doesn't matter.
Well, you're saying because, I guess I'm not making the connection, because he's not picking beats that you would have thought.
Well, he's not taking anybody's. You're not taking anybody's opinion into consideration. Matter of fact, you're going against everybody's opinion purposefully.
So he's taking it into consideration,
as a challenge,
just in a weird way.
And I just wouldn't want to. I just wouldn't want to be in that environment. It sounds like he needs. If nobody in the room, if their opinion is not worth listening to, he needs a new room of people. That's what it sounds like.
That might be fair. I think perhaps. I think also he's dramatizing the story to make it a better story, but also, it's to me, it's interesting because here's a rapper that's challenging himself to not lean on the producer and see himself more as an equal contributor to the success of the song, which is refreshing. I think all the producers in the comments were like, I want to work with Key Glock after he said that, because they're sick of hearing producers say, I like this beat, but it's not a hit. And you're like, what? So you want me to make a beat? If I make a beat that's a hit, I'm releasing it on my own and keeping 100% of it. If I'm making a song that's a hit, then it's 50-50.
Yeah, I like that aspect of it, and because you're a producer, you're looking at it from a producer lens. I think that's super cool. But like, very few beats, in my opinion, are like, oh, that's gonna be a hit. Like, it's the only thing that comes to mind to me is like, Tyga's Taste song, maybe. I feel like a lot of people could have jumped on that and did something dope with it. That was catchy.
I feel like most DJ Mustard records, I'm like, yeah, anybody could make this soar.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say most of his hit records. I wouldn't say in general, but you hear a Mustard beat and it's like, even I, who do not rap, feel inspired to make a song because his beats are so compelling. But I see what you're saying. Even Turbo, I feel the same about Turbo because his music is so musical, or his beats are so musical. I feel like if you have any type of understanding of melody or flow, like it could be a hit because he's just making such incredible beats. But I'm with you, Dave. Like it's got to be a merging of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're a producer who can make those undeniable within 10 seconds, you just know beats all the time, which I don't think any producer can. But if you can increase that ratio, yeah, you're out of there.
Yeah. I mean,
But that's not everything.
again, I like the, like, if and maybe he did just, dramatize it a bit to make the clip, more interesting. Because if the approach is like, oh, this beat is interesting, I feel like I can turn this into something that nobody else would. Like, I'll create something from this that will make my stuff more unique. That's the thought process. That's an amazing thought process. But if the thought process is, oh, he didn't like it, so I'm gonna use that one. He thinks I should use that one, so I'm gonna use the other one. Then,
Well, that's a better story, isn't it?
yeah, I guess. Shout out to Key Glock though. I don't know if I have any of his music in my playlist. I don't think so. But he played.
Well, I think his song "Let's Go" is an example of that because the sample's not even saying that, and he used his voice to kind of transform the sample into saying something. That's like his big hit, or one of his big hits.
I think I use that in my IG story, my workout IG stories from time, but I don't actually listen to it. Yeah, that's just the song that fits my workout check-ins on my IG stories sometimes.
Yeah, you're one of 11 million.
Yeah, so I do listen. I get not listen to it, but I use the music. So shout out Key Glock. Cool.
Erinn, do you want to talk about John Bellion's secret IG?
Just really quickly, because I think I've mentioned it before on the show, just how we've talked about John Bellion several times. There's been a couple of different interviews that we've brought up, but he just did his album listening event in New York. And I actually saw within the hour that he posted that the tickets were about to go live, but he has a forum is what he calls it, which is like his internet community on a whole nother platform. I don't know if it's on Discord or if he's built his own thing, but the forum got access to the tickets first, and then his mailing list, and then Instagram. And his Instagram is a private Instagram. I actually don't know if it's private anymore, but when I joined it, it was private. But it's just like user what is it, like user 3329 something. It's just like a random number, and he drops content on it. At one point he was dropping it daily. Sometimes it'd be like every couple hours he'd be in the studio and he'd just drop a video of him rocking, or he would drop like a 4-minute video of a long conversation. So what I think is interesting about John Bellion and the way that he's rolling everything out now, because it's not a rollout, he just was like, I'm taking back what's mine. Like, I'm fully independent. Y'all have heard us, hopefully you've heard us talk about this, but if not, go back to the previous episodes and check out what John Bellion is doing. He's one of the most notable songwriters in the world. He's like written, I think he did, what is that, Monster with Rihanna and I can't remember, Eminem. And then he's done like huge Justin Bieber hits. I think he wrote Holy and a bunch of others, Shawn Mendes. He currently has a label, and he has, Tori Kelly signed to it. Like, John Bellion is not to be played with. If you don't know him, like, you know his music. He's got it ranging from genre to genre, but he basically came back out after, I think, like 7-8 years of not dropping anything, because he was so frustrated with the way that the music system was set up for independent artists or artists in general, because he was signed. And so he's living in revolt of this system by doing what is prescribed, but on his own terms. And that's why I wanted to highlight. It's like, a lot of times people are like, I just don't want to post every day. I don't want to do this. I shouldn't have to do this. The thing that he's doing, which is actually what I just started practicing, is just dropping without expectation and dropping without the hope that it's going to be beamed up by some platform or whatever. Now, granted, He's a huge songwriter, has a ton of fans. Like, I've been a John Bellion fan since I think I was in high school. He's just been making such cool, unique music. But when he came back out, people, like, if you knew what his page was about, right? Like, if you knew this is John Bellion's page, because suddenly you're seeing his face or hearing his voice or hearing trumpets or whatever, and you're like, what is going on? I think it's a really cool way to break down the barriers and engage with your fans. I also just want to note that just because it's popular doesn't mean it's not good. And I'm saying that by the means of like having a ton of content, right? I think people would like to say that I want to be countercultural, therefore posting a bunch is not my speed. And he's saying, I'm posting so much, I don't care. I'm dropping stuff as I feel inspired, as I feel connected. And it's led to now, a year and a half later, he posted somewhat of a cryptic message. He said, like, I guess like tickets going live soon, first place I ever performed. And then he gave the date and time. And then in the caption, it said forum first. And so he was basically, like, you don't have to read too much between the lines, but if you know what's going on, oh, I should go join the forum. Really. People are so smart that, and big fans. He played at SOBs for the first time. His first ever show in New York. So before he could even send the tickets to his forum, SOB's website was like messed up because it got crashed. He sold out in 1 minute before it was even technically announced. So I don't know. I just want to talk about, like, I'm noting the power of a good fan base, the power of restoring power back to yourself and doing what you really believe in, but also talking about your story. For somebody to be as big as him, he did catch a good amount of flack when he came back out. People were like, oh, woe is me. This multimillionaire is whining in his house about never receiving what he should have from a label. But I think with him, he's like, I'm literally a genius. I have written the biggest hits across multiple genres, and I can't get my own music off because a record label who doesn't understand me is trying to describe to me what I have to do. They're trying to take money from here, here, and here. So he believed in his genius. He sat down for a while. He mourned the loss of what was going to happen and then said, cool, I still believe in my career, and he's going to come back out. So shout out to John Bellion. I think it's a cool story. I think the way that he's connecting with his fans, as big as he is, to be at SOBs, I think is a really cool experience. I was watching videos last night and this morning, and he was really just like rocking with his fans. It very much seemed like the Kanye listening experiences, but on a much smaller scale, and he was much closer to the people. And I compare it to that because sonically it was massive. You can tell with the videos. I'm not saying that a listening experience is just a Kanye thing. I've been throwing them since way before Kanye was announcing them. But like, you can hear the walls and SOBs rocking because John Bellion knows how to manipulate sound. And it's like, to be in a place like that, I'm sure it was an incredible experience for his fans.
So what needs to happen is John Bellion and Danny Brown need to work on a project.
That would be crazy.
And Key Glock needs to pick all the beats.
That would actually be really interesting. I feel like the three of them together would be fascinating.
Dame will not be managing the project, though.
No.
If you have cool ideas like that, I know we have to wrap it up. Get them out to the world. It's easy to do nowadays. Distribution is simple, but it's also free if you use the code MEC. Go to tolost.com, use the code MEC, or download the app. It's for Android or Apple. Just go on and search for Too Lost. You can do everything in the app, but use the code MEC so you can get 3 free months of free music distribution. We appreciate you tuning in to another episode of the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. We'll be back same time, same place. Well, actually, Dame might be gone because he has his Netflix special that the subscribers requested. So if they put pressure on the network, I don't know. He might be an intermittent guest once he gets a little time off from his strenuous life as a celebrity. But other than that, Erinn and I will be back next week, and we appreciate you joining us every week.
Peace.